Well, I don't know what I'm doing, and I think that's amazing. Let's just get into why I want to make videos in the first place. The first reason is obviously to learn something new. This one's, as I said, pretty straightforward. When I was in grad school, I used to help out people in the new media course to create videos or help them on their film sets. I worked on a film set of an independent movie called Backspace. All I did was hold up the shotgun mics and sort of walk around, try to make sure the set's in order and that kind of thing, and just that made me interested in just the process of video making, if not filmmaking, but video making in general. In 2015, I also helped my friend, shout out to Hayato Huseman. He's made YouTube videos for plenty of years now, and he's a really good videographer. And also all the other guys from Pocket Now, where I used to work back in 2015. So I helped him out making these videos, just again helping carrying the equipment, making sure that he has all the short lists and all of those kinds of things, helping him with the script. So what that did was again reinforced that belief that maybe I should try this sometime. But I kept putting that off because I was in grad school. I had to do all these kinds of things. I had to do stuff like finding a job, which was pretty important. So those things kind of fell into the back burner, and I just didn't think about them for a long time. But now I feel like I have enough time on my hands. I should try doing something. So here we are. The second reason that I wanted to make videos is to be a better writer, and there's a couple of reasons for that. One quote that resonates with me that I found on Twitter a few days ago was that academics write terribly because they write for an audience out to destroy them, that they are terrified to make a mistake. And I saw this sort of writing in grad school when I read papers and I wrote papers, and that behavior sort of got reinforced in me when I look back at my blog posts that I wrote back around the time that I was in grad school. I can see that I was covering all the bases, making sure that everything's proper, that nobody can poke holes in it in some way. And I feel like that's diametrically opposite to what I really want to do, and that's resonate with an audience. And when you're trying to resonate with an audience, you shouldn't be afraid to make a mistake. When you're trying to evoke an emotional reaction, you can't just be like this defensive batsman or a defensive boxer or something. You're just so afraid to get hit that you don't score any points or something like that. Maybe that's not the best analogy, but that you get what I'm trying to say. That's what happened to my writing, and I didn't like that. Another thing that I saw was I was just browsing through different forums, and I found an answer to the question, what are some things that someone can do to improve their writing? And I heard something that I really agreed with at the time, and that was that don't consider writing and talking two separate things. You should aim to write like you speak, and you should learn to speak better. And that stuck with me. So as a result of that, sometime last year in November, I joined Toastmasters, and I started writing speeches that you give prepared speeches in front of a crowd, and it's a very supportive atmosphere, and I really like that. But I feel like I need to take that to the next level, make my writing even more direct, even more easy and effective to understand for people. And I feel like this will help because there's a difference between reading and speaking, in the sense that you can read more words per minute than you can speak per minute. And so when you're writing with the intent to speak to an audience, you have to trim the fat. You have to make sure that there's no extraneous details, or you're not going too far into the woods, so to speak. You're not getting lost. You are trying to maintain the connection, right? It's words are at a premium, and sometimes brevity is the best thing you can do, unless you are really so good at speaking that they'll listen to each and every word that you have to say. And I'm not at that level, I'll be honest with you. So I'm trying to sort of trim the fat and be a bit more like an open stance boxer or an aggressive batsman, whatever analogy you want to say, just in an attempt to resonate with people, trying to forget about the fear of appearing wrong. And that's kind of also reinforced as children in the school system, that you're not really allowed to make mistakes because you're afraid of some sort of punishment or being made fun of by somebody, and that's not right. I think that's another form of reinforcement of just I don't want to appear wrong. That's in this society that we probably should do something to change. And when I went into engineering for my undergrad, it was so important to learn from mistakes. You try, you do something, it doesn't work, you go back to the drawing board, you do something else, you keep doing that. And in that process of continuously building something, it breaks, you build it again. That's how you develop something. I feel like that's very important, that's very valuable as a person to do. And academia sort of reverts back to the old ways, I guess, or the well established ways of, you have to make sure everything's watertight, everything needs to be in this encapsulated package, and no leaks, no vulnerability, no attacks. You're defending a thesis, you're doing all these that's the sort of metaphors that are used there. And I guess it's been perpetuated for hundreds and hundreds of years, this system, but maybe there's a way to be a bit more direct. And I want to do that. I want to connect with people. I want to make sure that what I'm saying is being taken down or taken in by people, rather, and resonating and that kind of thing. As a kid, I've always been the silent type. I always felt like the non-verbal aspect of communication was more important, but I realized that the spoken word is very important, and the way you use that is paramount in today's society. Which brings me to my final point, which is to be a more effective communicator. I've already started to talk about this a little bit, but I said I have a blog, and I'll be honest, it doesn't get a lot of hits. Maybe I'm just not a good writer, and that's why I'm trying to improve my writing skills. But on the other hand, maybe there are other more lucrative forms of content. Like my friend put it a few years ago when he said, when I asked him for feedback about my blog, he said maybe you should focus on more lucrative forms of content like podcasting or videos. And I'll be honest, my first inclination was to create a podcast, and I've tried to start a podcast a lot of times. I know the cliche of like, oh, this guy in his mid-20s, of course he wants to make a podcast. This is the new, I want to be in a band and be famous, that kind of thing. And everybody has a podcast. I know that it's sort of a self-indulgent fantasy of people that they'll just do some long form of audio content and people will listen to it and they'll try to engage. And there's multiple forms of it. There's the really overproduced, in my opinion, NPR style. Everything has just a lot of sound effects and huge production values, or there's just people talking into a microphone and just rambling on, or even trying to engage people with stories or other things that happened in their lives. And maybe that's what I'm trying to do. I have no idea what I'm going to do in my video career, videos in the future, but perhaps this is a better way of getting people's attention than a podcast. Maybe what happened was for the best, that my plans of podcasting fell through multiple times, and I was dejected at the time, but I feel like maybe this could be one way of reaching out to an audience, and that's a more, as my friend said before, a lucrative form of content. Maybe that's the way to do it. And it's all about, in today's environment, you need to sort of be an exhibitionist. Maybe it's too cynical of me to say something like that, but you have to be an exhibitionist. You can't, know your role and shut your mouth, as Vince McMahon says, or used to say back in the 90s. There's this compulsion of being a part of the discourse. There's this pressure, the social pressure in my generation of people 20 somethings or 30 somethings just to be a part of the discourse. There's a fear of missing out. If you miss out on the latest discourse, you can't get your 2 cents in, get your words in, and it'll just get dissipated, and the internet outrage machine moves on to a new topic. I'm not used to sort of going into these topics or like being an exhibitionist. I'm so far out of my comfort zone right now that I don't know what will happen next. There's this fear of what will people say, what will people think, will they laugh at you, or will they think this is bad? Will, in a few years time, you'll look back at this and you'll say, wow, this was a cringeworthy moment of my past and I'd rather not think about it. Maybe that's all going to happen, maybe that won't happen. And it doesn't matter, because I'm trying something new here. I'm doing something new and it's exciting to me right now. It's great. My face probably doesn't convey that emotion very well. Again, I'm an introvert. I don't really do captivating facial expressions or hand movements or even tone of voice, but in the end, that's what I'm trying to do. I want to be a captivating person, or some kind of a, I don't want to say a thought leader, but just a bit more of a effective communicator in the end. So those are my reasons for trying to make a video. Why don't you tell me what you think about this medium of videos, or what I'm doing wrong right now? Because I'm thinking about the lighting, I'm thinking about this backdrop and all of these things, the audio quality, the video quality, anything that you have to say in a constructive way, just let me know and I'll try to incorporate that in the future. Let's see how this goes, and goodbye and good night.